Imagine this. You haven't eaten in several hours. Your stomach is growling so loudly you're convinced the person next to you can hear it. Your hands feel strangely cold, your breath smells a little off, and your mood is hovering somewhere between irritated and confused. Most people at this exact moment reach for a snack, tell themselves fasting just isn't for them, and give up entirely. But what if I told you that everything you just felt wasn't your body falling apart? What if those uncomfortable sensations were actually your body waking up, flipping on a switch that most people never even know exists? What if the very moment you wanted to quit was the moment something remarkable was just beginning? This is not a motivational speech. This is biology, and once you understand what's actually happening inside your body during a fast, you will never look at hunger, fatigue, or a little brain fog the same way again. The human body is one of the most sophisticated machines on the planet, and it has a secret operating mode, one that gets activated only when you stop eating long enough to let it take over. Scientists have been studying this phenomenon for decades. The results are stunning, and today we're going to walk through 8 specific signs that tell you without any doubt that your fast is not only working, but that your body is doing something extraordinary. So stay with me, because what you're about to learn might genuinely change the way you think about food, energy, and your own potential. Before we get into the signs, you need to understand one man's work because it forms the foundation of almost everything we'll talk about. Dr. Mark Mattson is a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins University who spent more than 25 years at the U.S. National Institute on Aging studying what happens to the brain and body during periods without food. What he discovered is that after roughly 10 to 12 hours without eating, something pivotal happens. Your body runs out of its easily accessible sugar stores, what scientists call glycogen, and it is forced to look elsewhere for fuel. It turns to fat, and as it breaks that fat down, your liver produces molecules called ketones, which then travel through your bloodstream and feed your brain and muscles with a cleaner, more efficient form of energy than sugar ever provided. Dr. Mattson calls this the metabolic switch, and once you know what it feels like when that switch flips, everything changes. The first sign that your fast is actually working is one that confuses almost everyone. Hunger starts arriving in waves instead of building steadily. Most people assume that the longer they go without food, the hungrier they must be getting, that it's a straight climb toward unbearable, screaming starvation, but that's not how your body actually works. Research shows that ghrelin, the hormone responsible for triggering hunger, doesn't rise continuously. Instead, it spikes in sync with your usual meal schedule. If you've been eating lunch at noon your entire life, your body will send a sharp hunger signal at noon, whether you eat or not. It's like a biological alarm clock going off out of habit. But here's the part that changes everything. If you don't eat when that alarm goes off, the hunger fades on its own, even though you haven't touched a single calorie. Your body tests the signal, gets no response, and moves on. This is profoundly important because it means hunger is not the emergency we've been trained to treat it as. We live in a world that has convinced us that any sensation of hunger is dangerous, that it must be silenced immediately. But your body isn't panicking, it's communicating. Those waves of hunger followed by calm are your internal systems doing exactly what they're supposed to do, recalibrating, adjusting, learning a new rhythm. When you ride out that first wave and realize you're still standing on the other side, something shifts in your relationship with food. You realize you are in control, and your body, sensing that it won't be getting a quick sugar fix, begins preparing for the next phase, the one where the real transformation begins to unfold. That next phase announces itself in one of the most surprising ways imaginable. Your breath starts to smell strange. Not the kind of bad breath that comes from skipping your morning toothbrush, but something different, almost metallic, sometimes faintly fruity, like the smell of fermented apples or nail polish remover drifting faintly through the air. If this has happened to you, your first instinct might have been embarrassment or concern, but this smell is actually one of the most exciting biological signals your body can send you during a fast. Here's why. When your liver converts stored fat into ketones, one of those ketones, called acetone, is highly volatile, meaning it evaporates easily. It exits your body through your lungs with every exhale. That smell isn't bacteria, it isn't poor hygiene, it is direct, real-time proof that your body has crossed the threshold and switched from burning sugar to burning fat as its primary fuel. Dr. Mattson describes this transition as a physiological turning point. You've crossed from the world of glucose dependence into a metabolic state that is optimized for mental clarity, physical endurance, and deep cellular healing. Many people who reach this stage report feeling lighter, almost buoyant, with a sharpness beginning to creep into their thinking that wasn't there before. If the smell bothers you, drink more water or unsweetened herbal tea, which helps flush acetone gently. But whatever you do, don't reach for sugary gum or breath mints, because even a small amount of sugar can interrupt the very process that's causing that smell in the first place. Embrace it. That oddly metallic breath is your body whispering to you, telling you that the switch has been flipped and that fat is now on the table. Shortly after your breath changes, you may notice something strange happening in your hands and feet. They feel colder than usual. The room temperature hasn't changed. You're wearing the same clothes, but your fingertips feel like you've been holding ice, and no amount of rubbing them together seems to help for long. This, too, is not a warning sign. It is a deeply ancient survival response activating inside you. When your insulin drops during a fast, your body receives a signal that food is not coming, and it immediately shifts into conservation mode. It redirects blood flow away from your extremities and concentrates it around your vital organs, your heart, your liver, your brain. Your body is making a calculated decision to protect what matters most and sacrifice a little warmth in your fingertips to do it. Think about what this means in an evolutionary context. Your ancestors didn't have supermarkets or scheduled meal times. There were entire days, sometimes longer, where food simply wasn't available. If the human body had responded to those periods by becoming weak, confused, and unable to function, our species would have vanished thousands of years ago. Instead, the body evolved a system that becomes more efficient, more focused, and more resourceful the longer food is unavailable. Cold hands are not your body shutting down, they are your body conserving. Put on a warm layer, drink some hot water, take a short walk to get the blood moving, and know that your ancient biology is operating exactly as designed. You are not suffering, you are adapting. Now comes a phase that tests most people's resolve, and it's the one that sends the greatest number of fasters running to the refrigerator. It's the fatigue. Not just ordinary tiredness, but a heavy, slow, foggy kind of exhaustion that makes even sitting up straight feel like an effort. Your thoughts come slowly. Your motivation evaporates. It genuinely feels like your battery is about to die, and your instinct screams at you that something is very wrong. Here's the truth: nothing is wrong. This fatigue is the direct result of a massive internal transition happening in real time. Your glucose stores are depleting, your body's old fuel is running out, and your new fuel, ketones, hasn't fully ramped up yet. There's a gap between the two systems, and that gap is what fatigue feels like from the inside. Think of it like a city switching its entire power grid from one energy source to another. During the switchover, the lights flicker, That's not failure, that's infrastructure
Look
changing.
at this incredible
According to Dr.
visualization.
Matson,
It
this is
combines all the
precisely
key
when the
elements,
metabolic switch is
biology,
being actively
transformations, and the
flipped.
signs we've been
Insulin
studying.
is falling, the liver is ramping up ketone production, and your cells are learning how to use this new fuel efficiently. If you can push through this window, what comes on the other side is something most people never get to experience because they gave up too early. Ketone energy is remarkably stable. It doesn't spike and crash the way glucose does. There's no post-meal slump, no hanger, no sudden plunge in focus. Instead, there's a clean, steady hum of energy flowing through your system. And at this same stage, studies show that growth hormone can surge by 3 to 5 times its normal level, actively protecting your muscle tissue and accelerating fat breakdown. The exhaustion is temporary. What follows it is not. Right around the time your energy begins to stabilize, your brain goes through its own version of the same struggle, and it's just as uncomfortable before it's extraordinary. The brain fog that descends during fasting is real, and it's disorienting. You might find it hard to string a sentence together. Simple tasks feel strangely difficult. Your focus drifts. It's as if someone smeared Vaseline across the lens of your mind. But here, as with everything else we've discussed, this fog is a transition, not a destination. What's happening is that your brain, accustomed to running on glucose, is in the process of switching over to ketones, and specifically to a ketone called beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, which can cross the blood-brain barrier and feed your neurons directly. Once BHB levels rise high enough, the fog doesn't just clear, it clears completely, replaced with a quality of focus that feels almost unfamiliar. Many people describe it as the clearest their thinking has ever felt, and there's a biological reason for that too. Fasting significantly boosts the production of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which scientists have described as fertilizer for your brain. BDNF protects existing neurons, encourages the growth of new neural connections, and sharpens memory and learning. Our ancestors had to be at their cognitive best when food was scarce, because that was exactly when they needed to solve problems, track prey, and make life or death decisions. That evolutionary design is still coded in your brain. The mental clarity that emerges during a fast isn't a coincidence. It's your brain operating in the mode it was built for. Here is perhaps the most counterintuitive sign on this entire list, and it's one that surprises almost every person who experiences it. After roughly 24 hours without food, hunger doesn't intensify, it actually decreases. You would expect the opposite. You'd expect 24 hours of fasting to produce 24 times the hunger, but that's not what happens. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, has stopped cycling with your old meal schedule because you've missed enough meals that the pattern has been disrupted. Meanwhile, your ketones are now providing your brain with steady, reliable fuel, which removes one of the primary biological signals that drives hunger in the first place. When your brain is well fed, it doesn't demand more food. And without the blood sugar spikes and crashes that come from eating regularly, there are no sudden drops pulling you toward the kitchen in a panic. What you feel instead is something almost peaceful, a kind of quiet settledness in your body, an absence of the urgency that used to define your relationship with food. This is your body telling you that it has adapted, that the transition is complete, that it is now running efficiently on its own reserves. This is not starvation. Starvation is a prolonged state of genuine deprivation where the body has no reserves left to draw upon. What you're experiencing is metabolic flexibility, your body doing exactly what it evolved to do. And the feeling of that adaptation, that quiet, steady calm after the storm of early fasting, is one of the most powerful confirmations that something profound is happening inside you. Now let's talk about something that feels like a setback, but is actually one of the more fascinating signs of deep internal work. Some people during extended fasting notice small breakouts on their skin, a little redness, mild itchiness, or a dullness that wasn't there before. It feels unfair. You're doing something healthy and your skin is staging a protest. But here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. When fasting triggers autophagy, your body's cellular cleanup system, damaged cell components get broken down and recycled. This process also releases compounds that were previously stored in fat tissue, including things that have been sitting there dormant for a long time. As these compounds enter the bloodstream, your liver and kidneys work to process and eliminate them. But if the load is heavy, your skin steps in as a secondary exit route. Those breakouts are essentially dust clouds kicked up by a deep cleaning. Your body is doing renovation work, and some debris is temporarily visible on the surface. The key is not to panic, not to break your fast in frustration, and not to interpret this as your body rejecting what you're doing. Instead, drink more water to support your kidneys, rest when you can, give your lymphatic system the time it needs to catch up. The breakouts are temporary, the cellular renewal driving them is lasting. Every blemish during this phase is, in a very real sense, a sign that your body is doing the painstaking, invisible work of healing itself from the inside out, one cell at a time. Finally, there's the emotional dimension of fasting, and it's one that almost nobody talks about honestly enough. You might find yourself irritable for no clear reason, anxious without a specific trigger, emotionally sensitive in ways that feel out of proportion to whatever is actually happening around you. Your partner says something innocent and it lands wrong. You feel a strange wave of sadness followed by a burst of energy followed by frustration. It feels unpredictable and exhausting, but your nervous system is undergoing its own version of the metabolic transition, and the emotional turbulence you're feeling is part of that process. When glucose drops, your body activates the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system, which governs your stress response. Cortisol and norepinephrine rise slightly, making you more alert but also more emotionally reactive. This is the same system your ancestors relied on during food scarcity to stay sharp and responsive. It's a survival mechanism, not a character flaw. And just like the fatigue and the brain fog, it passes. As ketone levels stabilize and your brain adjusts to its new fuel, your emotional landscape settles too. Focus returns, the anxiety fades, a calm confidence tends to emerge in its place. To help yourself through this phase, gentle movement helps. A slow walk, some light stretching, deep breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system and directly counteracts the cortisol spike. Warm showers, quiet music, meditation, anything that signals safety to your nervous system will ease the transition. And above all, be patient with yourself during this phase. You are not falling apart. You are recalibrating at a level most people never explore. Here is what ties all 8 of these signs together into something truly powerful. None of them are random. Every single one, the hunger waves, the strange breath, the cold hands, the fatigue, the fog, the decrease in hunger, the skin clearing, the mood swings, they are all chapters in the same story. They are your body speaking a language it has been speaking for millions of years, a language of adaptation, efficiency, and survival. When you fast, you are not punishing yourself. You are not depleting yourself. You are sending a signal, ancient and primal, that activates systems most modern humans never access because they are always fed, always fueled, always topped up with glucose before those deeper systems